This is Evolving with Jessica Nguyen, brought to you by Sandstone. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Evolving with Jessica. I am your host, Jessica Nguyen, Chief Strategy and Legal Officer at Sandstone. All right, today is a fun episode because Maggie and I, who is our head of marketing here at Sandstone, we're having a conversation of who should be our guest on the show. And she thought it would be really fun if folks could get a glimpse of a much younger and newer lawyer, Jessica. And what better person to have on the show as a guest than my former manager who hired me to join Microsoft now. Let's see, gosh, more than thirteen years ago. I
That's
cannot believe
crazy.
it's so crazy. I don't believe I'm that old or you're old. So I'm gonna
No, I'm
pretend
not.
we're not gonna do math. We're lawyers, we're supposed to not do math. We're not gonna do math. But you can hear her already on the show. Please welcome my special guest and also dear friend, former manager, mentor, and so much more, Catherine Romero. Hi, Catherine.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Jessica. Happy to be here.
Yes. Actually, fun fact, folks, Catherine and I live less than a mile away from each other. But we are doing this
But
virtually
I was
because
here first, and then she copied me, which is fine, which is fine.
yes, that's right, folks. For the record, I have copied Catherine on so many ways. I moved to the same city as her. At the time, I had 2 daughters just like her. I worked at Microsoft like her. So there's so much ways that I want to be like you, Catherine, when I grow up.
Aw, oh. Well, I would love to be like you when I grow up, but I don't think I'm gonna have the 3rd child, so but I think that's
Oh my
gone, yeah.
god. It's okay. You're waiting for the grandkids, right? The grandkids are coming.
Grandkid, yeah, there you go.
Grandkids. Well, speaking of, you being someone that I wanna be when I grow up and who I admire so much, I bet there's just a lot of folks who are gonna listen and really just admire your career path of folks, if you don't know who Catherine is, I recommend you look her up on LinkedIn. And also, Catherine, tell us about your career journey of what are you doing today at Microsoft and how did you get here?
Oh boy. Well, let me start with what I'm doing today. Today at Microsoft, I am actually in an engineering role again. And I started life as an engineer at Boeing, but I am working for our AI for Good team, which is a philanthropic team that builds AI models to help nonprofits and help improve things around the world, which is really fun. It's really fun to be using cutting edge technology in ways that we can help people. And this group at Microsoft has been when I was a lawyer at Microsoft for many, many years, and they were my client group, I wanna say for 7 years, a long time.
Yeah,
they've been my clients for a long time.
right.
And so then about actually a year ago, pretty much a little over a year ago maybe, the CVP of our group said, "Hey, I want you to join our group." And I want you to he wanted me to set up a compliance process because their compliance is pretty ad hoc. So I want you to run compliance. I want you to do some legal-ish stuff. I want you to PM some projects. I have all this other things. So I joined the group and it's been a ton of fun and super rewarding because we're helping people, and a lot of people don't know the groups that Microsoft has and what they do to help people, but it's pretty amazing some of the things we do. So that's how I got where I am short term here today. The other story, like I said, I started as an engineer at Boeing for about 7 years out of college, and I'd always wanted to go to law school. And so I was an engineer because my parents wanted me to be an engineer, and that's kind of what we did in the family. And I'm old, right? And it's like, oh, you kind of do what your parents tell you to do. And
Okay.
seriously, you
And say,
know,
yeah.
Math and science were my strong subjects, and so kinda did make sense. So, I was an engineer at Boeing, and I had actually some fantastic experiences there, and maybe one of the highlights, if not the m main highlight of my entire career was at Boeing, was
Mhm.
working on a project at Boeing. And then I'd always wanted to go to law school, and so I thought, "Well, I think I'll just take the LSAT and see what happens." And so I took it and I scored really high.
Well, I'm not surprised. There's a lot of, like, logic games in the
It was
LSAT.
the logic, right? I'm like, "Oh, this is easy." I'm just like, "Oh, those logic games are so hard." I'm like, nuh-uh." And so
They're kind of fun. They're kind of something you would do for
yeah.
recreationally. They're like a yeah, like a Sudoku.
Yeah, they are. They're probably good for
Yeah.
your brain, actually. I should probably have to get a book of logic games and just, like, do that to keep my brain going. And so I thought, "Well, I'll just apply and see what happens." And I applied and I got a full ride at SU Law School. And so I thought I was like, "I don't really wanna quit my job and they have a night program, so I'm gonna, keep my job at Boeing and go to school at night." And I did that for a quarter and I about died. And then I thought, "Okay, I gotta make a decision. Am I all in or am I just going back to my job?" And I said, "No, I'm all in. I wanna do this lawyer thing." And so then I went full time. Now, my parents don't know.
Wait, your
'Cause
parents didn't know that you were
no,
going to law school?
no, they didn't know. And so it was probably 6 months in where I was like, I'm gonna have to tell my parents about this." And it's not like they live in another state, right? Like, they live here, and so I saw them all the time, and so we were at dinner one night, and I'm like, I have something to tell you, I'm actually not an engineer right now. I'm in law school." And my father, like, blew up. He was so mad. And he was like, "You are throwing away a brilliant engineering career to be a lawyer. Lawyers don't do anything for humanity." I mean, he went off on this, like off.
That is
Now
wild.
fast forward to where my daughter, his grandchild, decided to go to law school. Oh, she's so wonderful, and I'm so happy she's gonna be a lawyer. My granddaughter is perfect, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, well, but
Do you
that
remind
wasn't
your dad his reaction when you decided to become a lawyer, or you're like, "No need to remind him. No need."
I didn't remind him. I'm just like, "Yeah, it kinda figures," because with grandkids, they can never do anything wrong, right? They
That's
can't.
true. That's true.
Yeah, so that's how I became a lawyer. So went to finished law school and then worked at Perkins Coie. I started in their small business group, and then I was sucked into their corporate group when Amazon went public because they needed every single associate to get that IPO done. so
Mhm.
so yeah, I helped take Amazon public and then did a number of other deals there. And then ended up in a number of different in-house positions, and most recently Microsoft, and right before this T-Mobile, which I wanna call out because T-Mobile is just such a wonderful group of people and such a fun company to work
Yeah.
for, and I Susan Hacker, I don't know if you know Susan, was my manager, and she's brilliant and fun and creative, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, you had such a fun career. And that's where we met when you
Yeah,
hired me to join your Microsoft team.
that's
At
right.
the time, we were supporting the Outlook Exchange team.
Yes, that's right.
Yes. And
Yeah.
so what took you from the email world to the AI for good world?
Well, there were several things in between, right? I was in enterprise and devices, right, which is Outlook, where I hired you for about 7 years. And
Yeah.
then what had happened was near the end of that period of time, GDPR had hit, right, from Europe. And we were all like, "Oh my gosh, we have to implement this crazy privacy regulation into all of our systems." So I spent at least a year and a half helping the business figure out how do we comply? How do we implement this in all of our systems and, get this going? And so about the time we got that up and running and compliant, there was a new compliance group formed under Becky Lendenberg, who is retired. And since I had been doing this compliance work, she said, "Hey, I want you to lead this team to overlook compliance company wide and make sure that, this part of the company wasn't doing anything drastically different from this part of the company. And that from a compliance perspective, we had a company-wide story." So I did that. That job was real learning job for me. And I'm really glad I had that job because working with engineering teams was very comfortable for me, right? Because I'm an engineer and doing all the product stuff. But doing this, this was my PM training, doing this PMing of all these different groups and what they were doing to comply with GDPR requirements. And I had a team of PMs. And it's funny because, and I'll talk a little bit about this, but prior to that, I had started the Intellectual Property Law Institute, and which is a program I started with a colleague, Mick Conowall, that is still going. And we really did that by the seat of our pants. And when I had a team of PMs, I was like, oh, this is what I needed to start that program.
So nice to have a team of
Oh,
project managers.
this is what fit these are the skills. These are the PM skills. Like, it was very eye-opening. I had really 3 really expert PMs who are still at Microsoft. They're wonderful people, and they're so, so, so smart, and I just learned a ton from them, just a ton, and I learned a ton from my manager in that role, and so we got that to a point, probably 2.5 years or so, and then it was like, "Okay, well, company-wide, we're at a good point, right? We're sure that all of our different groups and teams are kind of doing the same thing and complying with the same things in the same way." So from there, I went to support research teams. And the team I am in is a research team. I didn't get them till a little bit later because they weren't quite formed, but I had a bunch of teams in MSR. So I'm working with these brilliant, PhDs literally all over the world. My
Yeah.
clients are all over the world. They're publishing in Science and Nature magazine. I'm working with our chief scientific officer, and it's super, super interesting because it's cutting edge research. Really cool,
What so
really
what's
cool.
an example of some of the that you can share, some of the research that your team's working on? I think you once showed me a Vatican project?
Oh, yeah, that's what my current team is working on, worked on. We did a project for the Vatican, and if you go to the Vatican, you can see the project, you can buy tickets to it, and it's this kind of history of the Vatican that shows you, you know, where the Vatican was built, how it was built. It has these
Oh my
3D
god.
images. It's very hard to describe, but it was all done with AI, and it's super cool. So if you go to the Vatican, go see
Oh
it.
my god.
You'll see the
Your job
little
is way cooler
Microsoft
than
hanging on
mine.
the wall there.
I swear, you and my husband have the coolest stories and jobs. They're like, "Jessica, what do you do?" And I'm like, "I build legal tech and went to a conference." I don't get stories like stopping digital crimes and building, really cool AI, history on the Vatican. And you got to go to Italy too, right? I think you did get to.
I went to Italy because my daughter was studying in Italy, so that was the number 1 reason. But yes, yes.
What a good perk. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, yeah.
but yeah, the other scientists, they've done, one thing that they did with they built this Aurora model, right, which is weather predictions, and worldwide, it's like the coolest thing. It's open sourced, but like I said, big research papers, and then this team that I am now part of became my client. And initially, when they became my client, they were doing a lot more like research in the medical area, but they were doing research with AI years ago, right? They were data scientists, PhDs on the cutting edge of how do we do this research? How can we make this work? And really rudimentary AI models and doing research and testing, which is really cool. And of course, since whenever that was, 2018, 2017, we've just grown by leaps and bounds in building AI models, and it's on a huge acceleration path.
Oh my
So
gosh. And I bet that changed with the advent of generative AI, really going to market and becoming more mainstream. Was that 2022 or so when ChatGPT entered the world and really
yeah,
co too?
yeah, yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, 2022, 2023. Yeah, so it's just been it has been a wild ride the last few years, let me tell you. So even in our team, and our team is a philanthropic research team, and so I see my data scientists like doing new things with AI, and oh look, we built this and we did this, and oh wow, that's interesting, and then what do we do with this? Do we open source it? Do we, give it to a product team? Do we just publish? So it's very interesting. But pretty much 99.9% of what we do goes to nonprofits.
Oh my
and
gosh.
and like the UN World Food Program. We do work with them on food security and helping map out where people should plant fields versus have their business buildings and building, the towns, and where are you going to get the most grain, and the biggest bang for your buck in land use. All
You
sorts of things.
you have a one of one job, really, Catherine. I think there's so much of us who go through law school and want to change the world in some positive way, but then we have a law school bill. It's a lot more expensive than it was when we were much younger, and then
Yes.
you end up working at a firm, and you don't get to do and have that positive impact like you do, like working on those projects, and then also use AI to have a positive impact on the world. What
Yeah,
a cool job, Catherine.
it
Uh,
is. It is.
before we
So I do see the good side of AI, like day in and day out. I do.
I do. It's not that scary, right?
I don't think it's that scary. I mean, I've listened to all these podcasts and there are the doomsdayers, and the accelerationists, and I'm like, and I'm old, right? And so this is the third big technology boom in my lifetime. Like, when I was back at Boeing, PCs kind of came into the scene, right? And that
Mhm.
like you see the same thing every time. It's like, oh my gosh, there's PCs. What's gonna happen to all the secretarial pull? And yeah, we did have huge secretarial pulls, right? And we dictated memos and they'd type them out and we'd send them through interoffice mail. And maybe we'd get a response in 3 days if we were lucky. And yeah, did a lot of those jobs go away? Yeah, a lot of those jobs went away. But guess what? Like the people who were smart trained themselves on all the new jobs associated with personal computers that came into
Mhm.
being, right? And you'd see those people and they were doing something like at a much more interesting, much higher level and making more money, frankly. And so I saw that with the PCs and then, I saw that with the internet.
The
It's
internet,
the
right?
internet comes on the scene, and I think I think it started at the end of my law school career, and then I was at Perkins Coie, and they had some partners, "No, I'm still dictating, I'm not gonna use that internet, I'm gonna, use books," and the associates were like, "Hey, we're using the internet to do this research." There's
And I
lots of
bet
here.
and I bet it's the same with AI. These associates are gonna come in and be like,
That's
"Why
right.
am I doing this manually when AI can summarize this or give me a wonderful first draft?"
Exactly, exactly, and I think that the people who are gonna get ahead, the associates that are gonna get ahead and law students are the ones that are like, "How can I use this tool?" Because that's what it is a tool. Unlike any other tool, it's not 100%. Like, I just built this, compliance agent, and I gave it, I'm like, "This is what you read off of, and this is what you have to do, and follow these instructions," right? And the agent kept going off on its own, but, it would sorta read my instructions and do what I said, then it'd say, "But, I think that an approach would be to do this, that, and the other," and I'm like, "Why are you doing this? Like, that's not in my instructions," and I kept trying to fix it, and I couldn't fix it, and I finally asked Copilot, I'm like, "Copilot, I've been trying to fix this agent in this tool, and this is what it is." And Copilot was like, "I'm gonna tell you the hard truth. That is not the tool to build a compliance agent because it is gonna go outside and get all this information from the
Wait,
internet
wait,
or wherever it wants. It's
Copilot
not gonna follow your instructions."
did Copilot actually say, "I'm gonna give you some hard truths"?
Yes, "I'm gonna
Oh
give
my
you the hard truth." That's what it said. I'm like, "Oh, this is great."
I
And then
love when AI has a personality.
Yeah, total personality, right? And then then I was like, "Why did I not, like, ask Copilot to begin with just something to begin with? Oh, hey, is this a good place for me to build?" Which I didn't, so I spent all this time. On the upside, I learned how to build a agent in that particular tool. But, it's kinda funny, right?
Yes,
Yes, Copilot has a personality, and I think they all do because I think that they don't wanna make people feel weird, right?
when you're engaging with this
Yeah, when
AI.
you're engaging, right? They wanna be friendly. They wanna say, "Okay, yeah, you
Yeah,
can you can
what's the
talk to me and
personality
it doesn't sound like
of
a
your
robot."
Copilot? Wait, how would you define your Copilot personality? Other than being very direct, very is
Yeah. Right.
you're nodding. Oh,
Ver
your
yeah,
Copilot's direct.
very, very direct, no fluff.
Can we prompt it to say, "Hey, can you be nicer to me?"
I'm
A little
sure
bit
you
more passive
can.
aggressive with the
I'm
AI.
yeah,
No.
you could say, "Hey, you're offending me. Can you please give it to me in a softer manner?"
Oh. Well, to shift gears a little bit, so you hired me to join Microsoft,
I
and I think
did.
it was 2013. And what I remember about that experience is the recruiter, who was wonderful, said, I don't know if you'll get this job because your headcount is actually replacing someone who's leaving who is much more senior
Yeah.
on the team. But when you were interviewing me, like, what was your impression and takeaways? And what like, and then also, would you have guessed 13 plus years later that this would be what we'd be doing right now and what I'd be doing now? Doing a podcast
No.
together, all the LinkedIn posts that I do. I'm very different. I mean, I'm different, but I'm not different. I mean, what were your impressions 13 years ago and today?
Well, 13 years ago, when you came in, I think what stood out the most was your questions, honestly, that you were asking a lot of questions and trying to understand. You were truly interested in what is this job about? What do I need to know? What skills am I going to need to learn?
Mm,
And just that is actually what got me because I was like, okay, this person's curious. This person's curious. They're interested in learning. They're gonna have to learn. And as you know, things change fast and
yeah,
technology goes fast. So it's like this
yeah.
constant, oh, I gotta learn something new, something new, something new. And of course, Jessica, your friendly and wonderful personality. I mean, absolutely. But I do think what got it for you was you clearly were listening and you were asking questions and listening and absorbing and asking further questions like you wanted to learn. And I'm like,
Oh,
okay, this person can learn and can ask the right questions to learn and absorb it and be able to move at the speed you need to move at,
correct. I
and
mean, at the time, there was a big shift from on-prem software to the cloud,
that's
so
right. It was a
a lot of
huge technology shift.
yes,
Yep.
a big not the same as, like, the advent of internet, but it's still a big shift for a lot of businesses.
Yep.
Well, I mean, I credit that curiosity to really when I was interviewing, I came from a startup, and so just having to deep dive and learn the business and the product from a startup
Right.
really built that muscle. Was that really unique? You don't get a lot of I mean, I know you've interviewed, Catherine, countless
I
candidates for roles that
I
you don't get a lot of
yeah.
questions.
Well, you do get some, but I find that a lot of candidates are very concerned or very focused on, "I wanna tell you about me, and I wanna tell you about," you know,
Mm.
which is good, and you need to do some of that, but you have to understand if you get to an interview phase, at least at a big company, your resume has been through a gazillion people
Mhm.
already, and the person interviewing you should have, some notes from some HR person on their interview with you, and
Right.
maybe some notes from somebody else who has talked to you and your resume, and so they have some understanding of your skills and what you've already done. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't highlight some of the great things you've done, but you need to be interested in the job.
Yeah.
You need to be interested in the job. Show me that you're interested in this job. And to me, that's like asking questions, going, oh, and what about this? What about this? That's like, wow, that's really cool. That to me is important when interviewing people is curiosity and being interested in the job, which you were. And the other thing also I remember about you that I'll say was
Oh,
great
laughing.
after you were hired, and actually the clients would come to me on this too, is is you'd look at a process or something and be like, why why are we doing this? Why aren't we doing this? It seems
Yeah.
like this is easier. Why are we doing this? And you'd ask the clients and they'd be like, uh, because that's what we've done for 10 years, that's what we've done for 10 years. But why don't you change it? I don't know. But a lot of that, it's like that adds value to the business to have somebody
Come
call it out. "Oh, that's an interesting thing that you guys are doing, and why are you doing that, and why don't you do it this way?" Which, is way easier, and oftentimes, that is the, "I don't know. We've always done it this way."
Just fresh eyes. I wouldn't say, like, I'm uniquely brilliant. It was just more like, there's other ways. This is certainly a way to get something done, or
Right,
you
but
could
a
do
lot
it
of
this
people don't call that out. A lot of people are like, "Oh, I don't wanna,"
Yeah. Well,
I
I guess
guess I've done
I
it
guess
that
I've
way
always been a
forever.
disruptor at my core then, Catherine, that or a challenger of the status quo with good intent. Like, ho what maybe
Yes.
we can do things a little better.
Yep.
That was one of my favorite I loved working at Microsoft, actually, and it was really hard to leave because I loved working with you, of course, and so many great folks in legal, but I actually really liked working with our product and engineering,
Yeah.
clients as well in Office 365.
Yep.
One of my biggest advocates was you may Jason Henderson. He
Yeah.
out of nowhere, he emailed not just you and my then manager, Jen Scully, but also me emailed my skip level manager, David Wilson, to just talk about the impact I've had working with his team. So I have such
Yeah.
fond memories of working with that team.
Yeah, and they appreciated you because you did call out some dumb things they were doing.
I know. I'm so bubbly and smiley. They're like, "Oh, she's saying that this is dumb, but she's doing it with a
Yeah.
smile, so
She
I
always
can't."
says it with a smile.
I never said the word dumb. I'm like,
No, no,
"Yeah,
no.
that's
No,
an
don't do that.
interesting."
Don't ever do that, but
Don't ever do that for client relationships. No, no. Well, what great tips on interviewing and being successful with clients. And you've been really good at earning trust with clients too. I mean, I think what's interesting about your journey to you're technically not in the legal department anymore at Microsoft, right?
no.
You're a part of
I'm
is it
I'm
a
in I'm in the engineer yeah, I'm an engineer.
and so
Technically, I'm an engineer, yes.
yeah, so you actually joined the organization of your client rather than being their legal
Right,
advisor.
right.
What made you successful in earning that trust where they're like, "Catherine, come join our team. I want you to be a part of our org. Like, you're amazing." Like, I bet there's a lot of
Mm.
folks who are like, "I don't wanna just be a traditional lawyer. Like, I really wanna be a part of the business." Any pro tips for our listeners?
I think it's similar to what we just talked about, right? Is not just doing the legal agreement for something, but understanding what are the goals here, right? And how are you guys doing that? And I did do a lot of, oh, are you going to do this? Or, do you think you'll expand this project to maybe do that? Or,
Mhm, mhm.
just being invested in what your clients are doing. And, which with this group is not hard to do when you know that what you're doing might help a whole lot of people, right?
Right.
Might prevent people from starving, might prevent people from dying, right? And then to, say, hey, I'm a part of this, even though I'm the legal person doing the legal stuff, I'm contributing to this project. And so if I have other ideas, I'm certainly going to, speak up.
Yeah.
And
I love what you just said, being invested, and I actually think that was critical to building that trust and rapport with the Office 365 engineering
yeah,
org when I worked with them. Some product managers told me after a meeting I was providing some counsel on notice requirements for GDPR, and I presented it in a way not just, "Here are the requirements, go implement it." I actually presented it, "Here's how Gmail does it. Here's how Yahoo Mail does it.
right.
Here's how, these
I
other email."
remember that. And they were like, wow, she looked at our competitors.
And I'm like, "Here's how we should do it." And, like, think
Yeah.
about, like, we can do it in a compliant way and a better user experience than are all of our competitors, and they were like, "We like that." Like, the way like,
Yeah.
'cause it showed that I was really invested in success of the product as a user and really yeah.
Right. And with doing, with a research team like this and doing the legal agreements, you do see what the plan is. And then
Yeah,
you can look at that and go, well, given the goal, it might be better to do this way instead, or have you thought about doing this? Yeah, I mean, you do have the ability to provide some helpful input as a lawyer when you're
a
involved in the deal,
absolutely.
not just from a legal standpoint, right?
Yeah, and I think that was
So
so much more fun than just
it
giving a list
is.
requirements of to check a legal requirements box, just really
Right.
being able to influence the product, the user experience, which is probably why it led me to this career now in legal tech.
Yeah, exactly. You need to be, again, the invested, that I'm invested in this and I'm interested in this project and I want it to succeed. I don't just want to do the legal document for it.
No,
I
I
want to
actually
see it
think it's
work.
a boring part of my job now. I still do legal work, Catherine, and I still have to review a lot of legal documents, and I'm like, "Ugh." Can AI just do all this for me now?
No, no, I
No,
mean, it can help you.
that's
It can
it doesn't
help
have
you,
benefit.
right? But
No, it helps, but doesn't do it.
yeah.
Well, look, as I said earlier, I want to be you when I grow up for so many reasons. You have a
Oh,
great career, you're so kind, you are, a woman of color in the same profession, tech, law, and a mother, doing it while being a mother. But what I haven't achieved that you have done so well and made time for is all of your philanthropic work and mentorship work in with the Hispanic legal community and just up and coming law students. I'm like, I don't have time. Like, where do you find the time, Catherine? I mean, tell folks about you are one of the founders or co-founders of IPLI. Tell us about that program and how it's grown over the past 15 years
it's
now.
next year will be the 15th anniversary. Yeah,
Whoa.
I think they're gonna have a big party in Washington, DC. Um, so this started when I joined Microsoft, literally probably the second day, some guy I didn't know comes up to me. And at that point, there were very few Hispanic attorneys. And he's like, I want you to be a liaison to the Hispanic National Bar Association. You need to be Microsoft's liaison because we need a Hispanic attorney to be the liaison. And the person who was the liaison at the moment was Mick Conwell. You remember Mick, my
Yeah, I
friend Mick,
do remember Mick.
who's now retired at an Italian villa, but that's a different story.
Whoa,
But
that's
and
but
Nick's not Hispanic, but honestly, he is an honorary Hispanic at this point. He has done so many things for the Hispanic legal profession, so many things. And so I'm like, okay." And so I started going to these, H&BA meetings and representing Microsoft, and at that time, Microsoft was, donating money but not involved in much else, other than having some
Mhm.
representatives at the conferences and money. And so there was a conference in Seattle, must have been about 16 years ago. And Mick and I were there. And the then president, Judge Peter Reyes, and Vice President Miguel Pozo came up to us and said, we want to partner with Microsoft on a program for high school students. They're like high school students, Hispanic high school students, to get them interested in the law and to increase the number of Hispanics in the legal profession, which was super small and still is really small, by the way, but better. And we're like, okay, well, we'll take that back and think about it. And so we brought it back and talked to Horacio Gutierrez, who they also talked to, and we started, kind of thinking about what would we do, and how would we do it, and you know, and we kind of decided, shouldn't really be high school is too far away from law school. I mean, what we really need to do is find all the law school students that are out there because
Mhm.
what tends to happen with law firms is, it's just easy for them to go to the Ivy League schools. They're
Mhm.
like, "Well, we'll pick the diverse people who have gotten to the Ivy League schools because we
Right,
just don't have
right.
time." But there are a lot more people that are really amazing that are at a law school nearby because they got a scholarship or that's near home or they're taking care of their grandparent and they can't leave and that's where they have to. There are a million reasons and they're really great people and I'm like, we need to go out and find those diamonds in the rough. And those are the people that we need to mentor into this profession. And so that's kind of what we set out doing. And we were kind of thinking about how we would do this. And we had this weekend where we had gone down to Oregon, to Portland for the Oregon Hispanic Bar Association like conference, or it was their annual dinner. And Judge Jimmy Reyna of the Federal Circuit happened to be there along with Hispanic National Bar Association leadership. And after the dinner, we're all at this rooftop bar at the top of the one of the hotels there, which is escaping me. I think it's called the Nines. Anyhow, we're up there and we're talking about Mick and I are talking about, well, we're thinking, that we should do this and we should work with, law students. We should find these diamonds in the rough. We should do da. And Judge Jimmy Reyna says, "I we should do this in Washington, DC, and I'll talk to all my connections." And so we're like, "Great." And so Mick and I go back, and Judge Reyna emails us, Copyright office is in, USPTO is in, the ITC is in, the FTC is in. We'll have this thing in Washington DC, and we're like, whoa, okay. And so we're like, we need to pitch this because it's going to cost some money. We need to pitch this. And Horacio got us in to pitch it to Brad Smith. And so we're up there pitch it. Have we ever run a program? No. Do we know what we're doing? No, not at all. But we have this plan, and do we even know what a PM is? No. And we pitched this to Brad Smith, and I remember saying, you know, we're not going to increase diversity by just getting the diverse people from Ivy League schools. We need to have this outreach program and find them. And Brad sits there and he's like, "Okay." And, then he's like, "Okay, gonna give you $250,000. You go and run it for a few years and come back and let me know how it's going."
I would like a quarter of a million
I'm
dollars,
like,
and that's it?
"Think
You
about
did it,
that." Yeah,
you did
and
it.
we did it. Very successfully we did it, but who does that? I'm like,
Guess
and I
what?
I just wanna say that because I do think my company is amazing. When you have leadership that will listen to a crazy idea and back it up with money, like, "Yeah, I believe in you. Go try this and see if you can do that." It's pretty darn amazing, and so we did. We did. We put the program together. We really didn't know what we were doing. We really coulda used a PM, which we didn't have, but we did it. We did it. We had our experimental first year, and now I have, one of the people that runs the program now is from our experimental first year, and she is a fantastic attorney at Sony, Bernadette. And then we have Tyler at who I recruited to Microsoft, who is from a couple of years later from the program, and he is also running the program. So I'm super proud of I call them my kids, my IPLI kids, but the people, the amazing people that have come through this program and that have applied to this program at these dinky little law schools that are just absolutely incredible. And I remember I'm going to tell you a story about one of them because I have some that stick in my mind. And one thing I found was that these people were from, a lot of the people that apply are from really devastating backgrounds, like
Mhm.
poor, 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 but there's always been somebody in their lives, and I'm saying this because this is important, who along the way, a teacher or a counselor or somebody who's like, you're really smart. You're really smart, and you could go to college. You could do really well for yourself. Don't let anybody tell you you're not smart because you are really smart." And
Aw.
that was a very common denominator. I have one kid, and that kid, one parent had been deported and the other was in jail when they were about 8 years old, and their little brother was 4, and they ended up living in the backseat of a car in the Bronx with somebody who was kinda their aunt, who had a
Mm.
job but didn't have a place to live and used her car, and they did that for, like, 4 years, 3 or 4 years. And this person told me, the lunch people at the school at the end of the week would pack all the leftover food and give us a lot of that food. Otherwise, I think we would have starved. But there hadn't been anybody to tell along the way, telling this person, "You're really smart, and you can go far." And I said, "How did you get yourself to law school? How? And what even gave you the idea?" And this person said, I remember thinking, being with my brother in that car thinking, "We are not gonna live this way when we grow up. We are not, and I'm gonna be a lawyer." And they said, "I don't know why I picked lawyer. I think maybe because I was in courtrooms with, family stuff several times when I was young, but I set my eye on that goal." And this is what that person did. They are now a partner at a law firm, at a big law firm,
Oh.
doing really well, have their own kid. But that to me is incredible. And I'm like, there are really amazing people out there. There really are. And it doesn't matter where you come from. If you've got the drive and you want it, you really want to do it and you're going to do your best, you're going to get there.
what you've done is so amazing, Catherine, through the IPLI program is you gave them the opportunity. Yes,
Yes,
they have the drive and they're capable, but for a lot of folks, and granted, I didn't live in a vehicle, but I also from a very impoverished background where my parents, we lived paycheck to paycheck. We moved every 6 months to a year from a rental, very unstable. It's you just needed someone to take a chance on you because
you
it
do. You
because
do.
I didn't have the background to give me the to become the pipeline to go to an Ivy League school, and mom and dad weren't gonna make introductions or get me really great
Right.
internships because they had an expensive professional network. They had no network, they barely spoke English.
Yep.
So, there's so many kids like that that
I
went through your
know.
program, had that so, I mean, thank you for giving folks like me and the how many folks have gone through the program now?
Oh gosh. Over 300, probably can
Oh my gosh.
360 or so. Yeah, quite a few.
I
Quite a
bet you
few.
changed of their lives. I mean, that they would not have gotten a role at a law firm or a technology company like Microsoft, except for an opportunity to be with through IPLI. So,
Yeah, but to your point, all a lot of times all people need is just somebody to take a chance on them, right? Or even
yeah.
somebody to say, "You're really smart. I don't know if anybody's told you that, but you're really smart and you can do this." I mean,
Yes,
it's
yes.
really amazing. It's just like you don't need to give a lot to make somebody successful. You really don't.
Oh, well, what a
So,
great life lesson and what an impact you've had on so countless careers. Uh,
aw.
how many accolades have you I think what was the last time you won an award through the Latino Bar Association of Washington for a Lifetime Achievement Award? I think
Yeah, yeah,
I
that was
love
wonderful.
your dad came. I think he was crying when you were doing your acceptance speech. It was so adorable, by the way. I think I took photos of your dad when you're doing your acceptance speech. So what a well-deserved award, Catherine. I know you won other similar awards just through your impact with the minority community and beyond, not just minorities.
Yeah, and I really do appreciate the recognition, but I think the biggest reward is seeing, these students, I call them my kids, is seeing my IPLI. I do, and they call me mom. But, seeing my IPLI kids and they're doing great. And I look at
Yes.
them and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, look at what my IPLI kid is doing. That's fantastic."
I
You
met
know?
several through you. They are so wonderful. I actually laugh. I met through your daughter's wedding when we were at the Catherine's mom of the bride's friends table wedding. I was like, "Oh, no, honey," I said to my husband, "We're so old now. We're not going to our friend's wedding. We're going to our friend's kid's wedding. It is a new milestone." No, but on that's a fun note. Well, look, I before we end this podcast, I did want your take on you've seen the evolution of technology from the PC, the advent of the internet, now AI. And I think a lot of things that are top of mind for folks who are newer in the legal profession or actually in it is what's going to happen to their job with if AI can do so much of the work that lawyers are doing, whether it be the entry level work, the first pass, like what are so do you still need a lot of junior associates anymore? And or just even in-house legal teams, do you need as many in-house legal professionals if AI can get you 70, 80% there? What are your thoughts there, Kathy? Because I did hear you say earlier you built a compliance agent.
Yeah, I did, and then it started going off brand for me, right?
What do you
And giving its own stupid opinion. Um,
oh, that's a funny story. What? Uh-oh, went
I
wild.
well, I think it's super important, and I know a lot of law schools are not doing this, but I think it's super important that people learn how to use the technology.
Mm,
Right? Because entry level positions are not gonna go away, but you need to know how to learn at least the basics of how to learn the technology and how it works and how it, doesn't work and when you need to review it and that sort of thing. I think that's super important. And, and again, I've been through this so many times. Like the people who knew how to use a PC way back when PCs came out, well, let me tell you, in the engineering world, those were the young people getting hired. "Oh, you already know how to use a PC? Great, come on
yeah,
in," you know? And, the people that learned how to use the internet and not have to go to the library and get law books and look everything up. They could use the internet to do it quicker. It's really the same thing, right? It's like,
Yeah.
how does this tool work? What can you use it for to make yourself smarter? It doesn't replace a human, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't replace a human. Does it make mistakes? Yeah, it makes mistakes. Do you need to, review things for a human element? Absolutely, especially if you're going into a courtroom. You don't want AI drafting those briefs. You need a human element to that, right? So I see it as another tool. I also think there's going to be someday, hopefully very soon, a huge need for people who understand the technology to help drive regulation, because
Oh,
it's
but
not.
but
Yeah.
the regulators are never people who do. You know that? Remember we used to talk about GDPR compliance? They're like
Ugh.
people who are making laws are not people who are familiar with building technology.
No, it's true, and if you remember during GDPR that I went with our client Kareem, remember I went
They
over
talk about
to 8 different countries in the EU to explain how our technology worked, so that they would understand how they could build a regulation and make it make sense. But I do think that that area is gonna need people with legal background, technical backgrounds
it.
too, but definitely legal backgrounds. I mean, we desperately need regulation,
Mm,
desperately need it. And so we need smart people to understand it and be able to talk to regulators about it. And
yeah,
that's a different kind of law, right? But a lot of lawyers are in that space at companies like Microsoft,
yeah.
at tech companies and other companies too. So we need people to understand that. And I do wish, I know that there is value in people, writing their own essay or report without using, certain tools. Sure. But it doesn't mean it's one or the other. You have to learn both. You have to learn the technology of your time. You just do.
Ah, you there's such a you Catherine, you're preaching to the choir. There's just such a gap between the folks who make the laws versus the folks who build the technology, and that's a hard challenge, honestly, given the path to most politicians and regulators.
Yeah.
Well, on a more positive note, I'm actually curious on your take on this because you have worked at Big Law, you helped take Amazon public when you were at Perkins. You also had your own small law firm.
Huh.
What I find very curious, I haven't read through all the details just yet, but yesterday I saw an announcement that Kirkland and Ellis, if not one of the biggest law firms in the world, is investing $500 million to build their own AI technology. $500 million. So I'm just curious your take on, as someone who has both in-house and extensive law firm experience, what that means for the private, like law firm practice, because the billable hour is still the reigning revenue generating model for law firms.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I mean, I think that you're gonna have to compete with that, right? But, you know, I mean, depending on what they do, they're gonna have to spend money on that AI agents or whatever system they're building, right? It's not free. It costs quite a bit of money right now
It
to
does.
to
It
run
does.
that. And so they're gonna have to bill for that to make up for it. I think they're making a bet, right? They're making a bet that, oh, maybe we can build this and we'll need less people. I don't know if that's gonna pan out for them,
But if they have
you
less
know?
people, don't they make money from each people's staff than billing time
Y-
on a
Yeah.
on a
Yeah, right? If they have less people and they're spending that money on,
token?
GPUs,
Yeah.
tokens, I don't know where the trade-off is there.
Yeah.
Is there a trade-off? Are you gonna make more money doing it that way? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe
What's your work product gonna look like? That's, as an in-house lawyer, I want a person. I don't care if you use AI. I do want a person reviewing it before you send it to me,
correct,
right?
correct. Me too. Me too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So
we'll see how the evolution of the I guess, the pricing model goes for as of law firms. It may be, yeah, charging for a task completed by an agent and then charging a premium for the human judgment and review on top of the agent deliverable or output.
right. Yeah, it's hard to say how what that looks like. I mean, I'm sure they have some kind of a billing model in mind, but but I don't.
Yeah, maybe, but I also worry about how much entry-level associates do you need if there's agents that can do the grunt work. Because I learned so much from doing the grunt work, Catherine. I'm sure
Oh,
you did
yeah.
too.
Yeah, tons, and that's why I say in law schools, I don't think it's one or the other, I think it's both, right? You have to understand how you do the grunt work, if you have to do the grunt
Right.
work, and then how you can use this tool to do it for you, but, again, you're gonna need to check it, so
I
sometimes that
know.
requires going back to the grunt work.
Yes, you do need to check it for sure. I mean, I use a lot of AI in my day-to-day task, and I'm always fixing things or calling out AI, like, "Where'd you get this fact or number from?" They're like, "I fabricated it." No,
Yeah,
I mean,
the hard
they're
truth, I thought it sounded good.
At least they tell me when they hallucinate. At least it tells me when it hallucinates or fabricates facts. Well, on a fun note of changing, AI really changing the profession of law and doing taking over a lot of the work that lawyers are doing. Let's end with, well, Catherine, let's pretend in a world you no longer have to work because AI is taking over the job that you're doing today, which is okay because you're like, I'm done doing this job now. I want to do something different.
Yep.
Money wasn't an issue and AI is doing the work you're doing now. What would you be doing?
Oh, that is such a good question, Jessica.
I know. I
What
know.
would I be doing? I don't know what I'd be doing. I'd probably be, do I have to make money? That's the question. Do I have to
I
make
can tell you
money?
not to make money.
I
No
I d
money.
no money? Um, yeah, I'd probably be out gardening. I'd probably be I like growing stuff, and I wanna get better at growing vegetables. I wanna get better than my daughter, and not that I'm competitive, but, she seems to have this
You are competitive in a delightful way. That's why I
she
like you.
has this, incredible green thumb that my father has. And
Ah.
I'm like somehow the skipped generation, and that bothers me. So I would like to do that. Um, I don't know. I like baking and you know
Oh, yeah.
this that I
You're
used
making
to have a
pies.
I yeah, I bake pies, but I used to have a cookie company. This a
Yes.
long time ago. And my partner in that company is in LA and still bakes cookies and sells them, and, yeah, and
Mm.
from time to time, she's like, "Hey, you ready to come bake cookies?" I'm like, "I don't know. I don't."
That sounds baking,
Maybe.
cooking, and gardening. That sounds wonderful and relaxing. I mean, maybe all the vegetables you grow will offset all the calories from the pies and cookies, though. But funny
Yeah.
funny story that mentioned the gardening, though, my best friend from high school has an MBA in accounting and was a CPA and quit her job and now farms
And
in Hawaii.
farms? Yeah, farms
Yes!
is a bigger commitment if you're
Oh,
talking,
she
like, animals and,
No, just vegetable
Oh,
farming.
okay,
And
okay,
then
yeah.
she went
That's
to classes at the University of Hawaii to learn there's a whole, like, science behind it, the mechanics of
yeah,
farming, vegetables, but I
yep.
thought it was funny, but she was like, "I'm done being an auditor. This is not living the dream. I'm going to grow
And
vegetables."
that is the interesting part, right, is the scientific part of it, right? Because
Yes,
it is kind of a science experiment. It
it
really
is.
is, yeah, kinda
She
interesting.
loves it. She loves and I think she gets to see the fruits or the vegetables of her labor and the mechanics and science behind it, depending on the temperature, the soil, and
Yep,
whatnot.
that's right, so
Uh,
see, someday, maybe you'll see me at the farmer's market, you never know.
I would love that. I would help you. I can't grow anything, but I could sell things, so I can help you sell and peddle all your cookies and your vegetables, all right? And I can sell it. I'll put it on LinkedIn and all the social media. I'll help you with that, Catherine.
Awesome,
That's
okay, okay, I'm gonna take you up
alright.
on that.
Okay. I can't wait to do that too, honestly. Well, it was so fun to have you as a guest in the show and for folks to just get to know you, all the wonderful things you've done for countless law students, legal professionals, and just frankly the world. So
Oh,
thank you,
thank you.
Catherine.
Thanks for having
For
me,
joining.
it's really good catching up. I had a lot of fun.
I know. Well, next time we'll do this in person because again, you're less than a mile away over a
I
cup
know.
of tea. Over a cup of tea.
Over a cup
Um,
of tea.
for folks who want to reach out to you, what is the best way to connect with Catherine?
I don't check LinkedIn very often, but that's probably really the best way to connect with me.
All right.
I'm on
Find
LinkedIn.
Catherine
I get
on
around to it a couple times a week usually and answer stuff, so
All right. Well, when we finally publish this show, I'm gonna post it on LinkedIn and at mention you, Catherine. So you will be on LinkedIn at least that day.
Okay, okay, sounds good.
All right. Bye, Catherine.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Evolving with Jessica Nguyen, brought to you by Sandstone. To keep up with every episode, subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.